So on today's episode of Mental Health, I've got a fellow colleague by the name of Sujesh, who I'm going to be interviewing about his mental health during lockdown, the ups, the lows, the highs, the not so high, and how he's dealt with it. So thank you, Sujesh, for joining me.
Thanks for having me, John.
So what was your first initial reaction when you heard that the country was going to go into lockdown?
For me, it was, at the point when we got the news, nobody thought you're going to be stuck in this situation for another 16 months. So I thought, well, it's going to be for a couple of weeks, a month max. That means great. We're going to stay indoors. I used to live in a warehouse when COVID sort of came out, and because the way warehouses are set, we have lots of people, and they all sort of quite interesting people. A lot of fun can be had in that space. So it felt like, okay, that means less traveling to work, more time for fun. I was excited about that. But then I thought, but as time passed, I didn't necessarily feel like it's going to. It made me feel as bad as it affected others, because the first 3-4 months, I was still in the warehouses, and we found many ways to have fun. We'd dress up, we would cook together, we would do yoga. It literally, while everybody else unfortunately was suffering, and people lost family members and people were unwell, long COVID. There was a lot of doom and gloom came about through media, but we seem to just be so disconnected and happy face. But there's only this much fun that can be had, it has to stop sometime. Then I moved out to, we bought a place, and that was moving away and being like responsible adults, not having friends next to you all the time, which was a different dynamics. And then you have your withdrawal symptoms, because you're like, I miss constantly being around people, which I had difficulty with for the first 2 months. But now I feel like a fully grown man. I can handle my shit.
So you said that because obviously we work together, but we don't work in the same field.
Department.
Yeah, department. So obviously I know you as a very sociable, outgoing kind of guy. So so you said you had withdrawal symptoms from when you moved from when you were living in your
own place,
on your old place. So how did you cope with the withdrawal symptoms? Like, what did you do to kind of get you out of the depressive state, so to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the withdrawal symptoms were because of a few things. It was about, and I'll come to answering how I got out of it, but I think to give some context, it was easy for me to go and party just like I would normally do, but wanted to also take this opportunity to challenge myself to have a little more self-control, to I'm a very self-aware person, and I'm very conscious about people and the impact I can have on other people. So I was like, I don't want to be that guy who I don't live with them anymore. It was a great time when I was there, but I don't want to be that guy who turns up at the doorstep every weekend. So it was me putting that pressure on myself to try and do what I thought was right. And ways of coping with those was trying to make friends around my own side, trying to find more productive things to direct my attention into. It could be music. It could be, I found video games. So I never, last time I played video game was like about 20 years ago when I was a teenager. But then I thought, okay, I'm getting some video games, and I'm going to immerse myself into that. I know it's a most reliable way to get distracted. You should try it if you don't. But yeah, I did a bit of that. But you realize, you're still not that kid who can spend 8 to 12 hours on games. You realize you've turned into an adult because you're constantly thinking of, okay, what bills am I going to pay? Okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? So it's I've found ways to distract myself. Worst come worst, I am very comfortable stepping out. I know pubs weren't open then, but if I need to go out for a walk, I can take myself out and do my own thing. I don't necessarily need people to do things, but if I do need them, I'll find them.
So can you pinpoint a very, very high period and a very, very low period for you during the lockdown?
High period as in period where I enjoyed? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so a period where you thought, this I can see some hope.
Yeah.
Through all of this madness going
Yeah.
on, I can see some hope.
Yes. I mean, starting with the highs, I think what have really enjoyed is recognizing that the people I work with, the care industry that I support, providers of care whom I commission and work very closely with, I realized how resilient everybody is. People might believe in COVID, people might not, but there is evidence of adversity that different populations have been experiencing. And through that, I think people really stood there and did what they could to make sure we all support each other. And I thought that was quite, it brought me and our team so much close to clinicians, to public health, doctors, the care market. I think it's changed. It's brought a bit of a shift for good and better in our relationships, and how we all realize that when something as massive like this happens, there is more value in us all being on one side, and we are all part of the same wheel. I think it brought that sense of unity, that closeness, which I thought, I'm going to keep it with me, for the years to come in the work I do. It's definitely kept me going. 16 months of working from home, working really long hours, can typically shatter yourself, but it's kept me going. I still feel like I have a little more to give, and I've been with Harrogate Council for about 7 years now. By this time, I would have left an organization, but I enjoy, and I think they're great people to work with. So all of that has only helped me get through this. Now, in terms of my lowest moment, I think it was the initial period when I was getting used to working from home. The working from home is a great idea, love it, and I love it now. But initially, I think I struggled with knowing when to get up from my seat, when to have lunch, that it's okay to sometimes ring a person and just have a chat, and it doesn't constantly have to be work. And if you're anything like me, you put a lot of pressure on your own self to make sure you don't disappoint yourself and the people you work, which means you sometimes overdo it. That sort of stressed me out a bit. I think I physically felt unwell, and it made me feel like I can't do this around. But I think that when I started talking to others, when I started attending these sessions of Let's Talk, or where colleagues all express what they do, what they experience, how it is okay to sometimes doubt yourself because you're working in isolation. It's a common shared feeling, and you think you're not quite the only one experiencing those things. So it's nice. It's easier when you know that the struggle is shared.
So, as you know, this podcast is about mental health. So, as a male in the BAME community, so the Black, Asian, and minority ethnicity, why do you think guys, in particular Asian and Black guys, why do you think the mental health subject is such a taboo subject? Why do you think it's a subject that you don't want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It really comes down to our societal structure, the way we have, the way we have sort of progressed, and the way we think. For example, if I go back to India and we talk about mental health, you'll get a very mixed reaction. Although I think there's a lot of progress in people being open to these discussions. I think there's a general lack of awareness. There's a sense of associating mental health with weakness, which means if
I
you,
mean, so for example,
yeah.
when if you were younger, would you be able to go to your mum and dad and say, "Mum, Dad, I've got like some kind of a depression or I've got some kind of an anxiety." Like if you said that to them, how would they react?
I don't know, It's an interesting question because I think if I even told them now that, I don't know what would they say. Not because I think they're not forward, they're quite open and forward, but I really don't know if they would have the right tools to support me. I think they might
And
ask me to
is
do
it
something.
sorry? And is it because they wasn't like educated in that way, or what do you think
Yeah.
it is?
I think the combination of things, although they are educated in the academic sense, I don't think that the education and being conscious about mental well-being is necessarily done really well in India. My parents are in India, yeah. So I don't think those are sort of discussions that used to happen back then. Because I live far from my parents now, I can't tell what have they picked up on in terms of, are they savvy with what's on the news? Do they understand these issues? But my parents are also very religious. My parents go to church, and Christians is a big thing for them. And it is, yeah, I think it's a hard one because their hopes and their answers normally tend to fully sit within that faith, of Christianity. I don't know how I feel about that. I think it's just they come from a different walk of life. I've got to respect that, and I'm not going to sit and challenge them because I get to spend very less time with them. I don't spend my time challenging them. I just
But
deal
like
with it.
as an Asian man,
Yeah,
like when you go out with your friends, so say for example, you went out with a bunch of guys that you know very well from work, or
yeah,
you went out with a bunch of guys that you know very well from your childhood or whatever.
yeah.
Would you feel comfortable saying to them, look, I don't know what the scenario is like. I met up with this girl and I really liked her, and things seemed to like go my way. I thought things were going my way, and then she dumped me at the last minute. And would you feel comfortable like letting your emotions out, knowing that when you let them out, that
Yeah.
they're not gonna touch
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I would. I do. Although I'm a private person and like to be that way, but I also understand the responsibility of setting an example. Particularly with men, we can all act as tough as we like, but we're really little girls. I mean, not in a bad way, but you know what I mean. We we I think men should start talking more. Men should start hugging more. Men should feel okay, make themselves vulnerable, and cry when it's appropriate. And you cry when it's inappropriate. It's okay. I think we need to really talk and just say things. I think while we are at this point where a lot of issues on equality and are coming to light, and I think men should equally be contributing to those discussions of bringing equality and women and their rights to surface. Equally, we should try and recognize the what they call the what's the word male toxic what's it the toxic masculinity,
Yeah.
that aspect, and also just understand we are literally, we all cut from the same cloth. I have a penis, you have a vagina, but we're all the same. And I think we need to just be able to relate to each other than trying to stick to stereotypical gender types and feeling like as a man it's a sign of weakness if you talk about your emotions. I think I'm definitely with you on that. I think we should talk a lot more to men, with men, as well as women. I think we should be more physically available. It's okay to hug. It's okay to break down. There's beauty in it. I see a lot.
Oh yeah, so do I. So do I. I do see a lot of beauty, and people being vulnerable, people being
Yeah.
raw, people being themselves. Yeah, and so for anyone listening to this and they need someone to talk to, or they need some organizations, or they need some advice, what advice would you give to them about?
God, that's I don't know in terms of what support is out there. I'm sure there are loads of charities out there. I have never gone out and sought anything like that. I'm very fortunate to have friends. I would say, as much as you can, turn to friends. You would know the people who care for you in your life. Will spot them because they're the ones who don't shout at you when you're unable to keep contact with. They are the ones whom you will catch up after a year and a half and still take off from where you last left. They're the ones who will always support you. And voice their views when you're taking some wrong steps. You will be able to spot it. Turn to your friends. Don't underestimate your family. I think sometimes we do that because we think our families can only play the role of a parent, and we're scared to be friends with a family. And sometimes it may not be the case. I mean, and it may be that you're right. Your loved one might not be able to give more than what you need. But I think look out for people around you before you go to professionals. I think at some point, yes, some professionals are definitely helpful. But because I haven't the need to reach out, this is my own personal experience. I'm sure
Yeah.
different things work for different
And
people.
just one more question. So, in terms of the government and all these different health professionals, do you think they've done more or what they can to promote mental health? Do you think more needs to be done?
Yeah, I mean that's a straight answer. Yes, more can be done. I think irrespective of who is in power, I think there's a responsibility to make sure that this mental health is recognized as it's a structural issue. It is present really in every person. We all at some point of our lives go through have issues, some form of mental health. I think a formal recognition of that and being responsive and setting up systems to be more preventative and more supportive would be really helpful. I think politicians would benefit from having more better understanding of the subject, which hopefully will help them in
So,
their policy making.
are you saying that our current politician doesn't have a better understanding of mental health?
I wouldn't know. It's hard to speak on behalf of a politician, isn't it? But I can. I would say. If they. I think the benefit is the important thing is to recognize when you're not good at it. It's really it feels a bit shit from my end to sit and judge what politicians know or don't know. I think what I'm saying is that they could do better, which means it could be either from a place of them being educated and then doing something about it, or if they possibly already know, then they need to really get their shit together and do better.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sujesh, for this interview.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me. And I'm excited to hear all the other interviews that are